Hello, businesses of the Clare Valley. So I came out of that destination management plan workshop on Monday. Probably like two things. One was inspired, and one was a little bit impatient. So that's going to be released in July. And like, if we're honest, unless something significant changes in the structure of how the organisations do things that are involved in tourism up here, or the funding changes, then I guess looking at history, which is probably the best predictor of future behaviour, we can't have any real sort of like significant confidence that we're going to have the funding to do the things that we need to do, as will be recommended in that report. So therein lies a bit of a gap. So my take on the workshop was you could sort of break it into two parts. There was probably 60 to 70% of the conversation was around infrastructure. Some of those things were like securing water long term for growers, and transport, accommodation, bushfire, disaster mitigation and stuff like this. And then the other side of it was loosely tourism marketing. So things that I'm probably a bit more familiar with around collaboration and having a shared presence on social media. It's important that the destination management plan considers all of those aspects and everything that was talked about. But for me, I guess the clarity moving forward that I've got is that I want to focus on the things that the visitor sees. I don't know anything about water. I don't know anything about disaster relief mitigation or whatever it was. But I do know a lot about branding a tourism destination and executing marketing in a tourism destination at both the destination level and also for operators. So that's where I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on the things the visitor sees. And this will make tons of sense when I explain to you how we'll go about that. So I just sort of see this like, this is almost like just vlogging now. So blogging on video about what I plan to do, how my thoughts are sort of like evolving, and maybe it's a little bit ranty. And maybe it's going to, as I do, share a little bit too much. But I think it'll help me get clarity over what I want to do. And if you're on board with watching the content, then I know for sure there's going to be opportunities for your specific business in here, for collaborations, just for getting some stuff done in your business. And I'm not necessarily talking about stuff you have to pay for either. I want to show you a tool that I use in businesses, and I think it's relevant here. And I think it's like a one-page, rather than reading through 20 pages of it's going to be more of a destination management plan that comes in July. I just want to break this down to go and remember, this is focusing on the things the visitor sees. And this is the same thing that you can use in your business. It's called a customer journey map. And what it'll do is highlight the priorities in each of the stages of the customer journey, which I think I've got it on my screen behind me, goes from sort of like dreaming, inspiration, planning, booking in the visitor experience itself, through to sharing or reliving, which then becomes the inspiration for the next dreamers. So that's the customer journey, right? And then at each stage of the customer journey, it's a marketing tool. So at each stage of the customer journey, it's our responsibility, or the business owner's responsibility, to move the customer around that. So to give them what they're looking for at each stage. They can't be inspired, for example, to visit the Clare Valley if there's no content that they see, inspiring them to visit the Clare Valley. They can't book to come to the Clare Valley if there's no booking mechanisms. Like, it speaks for itself, right? But it goes a little bit further. Like, how can you provoke sharing after they've left the destination? When they're in the destination, what's the visitor experience that we're sort of like trying to create? So what are the gaps there in terms of like marketing tools? And I would argue there's things like just organizing information in the region. So for example, if I'm walking down the main street, I was talking to a retailer about this the other day. If I was walking down the main street on a Sunday and everything's closed, and I come from the city, so I'm not really used to, like I did come from the city 3 years ago. I'm not really used to everything being closed on a Sunday. Like, what's going on and how do I find out what I can do? At the moment, that information isn't really well organized, but it's not going to be that hard to solve that, right? Like, if somebody could just walk down the street, scan a QR code on the window that says what's on in the Clare Valley today, and they go to a little website that just goes like, this is Sunday in the Clare Valley, these are the things to do. It solves that problem. And this is the thing about branding, right? So at the moment, there's two levels of branding, right? There's hygiene and there's branding. most businesses sort of like operate around that hygiene levels. Like they're just hanging on for dear life to know how to present themselves well, know how to talk about themselves well, have a half decent logo, have a half decent customer experience, and hope that when the customer leaves that they were happy, right? And then if you can elevate yourself above branding, which only comes after you got the hygiene level sort of like sorted. If you look like a mum and pop store, like just like a basic brand, until you've got that sorted, you can't elevate to sort of like, to branding where you are being deliberately strategic about the type of person that you're targeting, about what you want them to think about and feel about your brand when they leave. And this is the thing about a brand. Like, I think we often conflate branding with a whole bunch of things, right? But when I say, we've got to get clear about what the Clare Valley brand is. A brand is a gut feeling that people take away when they interact with your product or experience, right? So we can't control their gut feeling. And I tell you why we can't control their gut feeling is because there's so many inputs into that are completely out of our control. Their environment, the people around them, what touch points or what things that they've interacted with. Like if they have a bad experience at the pub, then that's going to contribute to their perspective or their brand, Clare Valley, when they leave. And it's going to contribute to the narrative that they run to their friends or family when they tell people about that, right? That's the job of branding, to do things consistently well over a long period of time, have a clear vision of where you want to be in 10 or 20 years' time, what the majority of people that you have an opportunity to influence and deliver a brand experience to are going to say about you when you're not in the room, right? What's their gut feeling? So, which brings me to the next point, which is like, who are we for? And I've read the previous destination marketing plans, and it's like, I think it said like high yield, high value, X, Y, and Z, and the X, Y, and Z being like families, basically families with money, couples with money, and then I think it was like older couples with money. Like, okay, I think that's good. I think that's like a really good aspirational identity, and I think it sort of like matches the DNA and the product development and stuff that's going on in the Clare Valley. Then there's the other side of it, which is we've just got to accept that we're part of so many journeys, which was exactly my experience when I was on the road traveling as well, where people get to the Clare Valley because they've heard of the Clare Valley name, but they know nothing about, what it means to be here. And maybe they're not spending a fortune at the wineries and all those other places, but there are a ton of things that they can do around the Clare Valley that we haven't organised as stories. The Wilderness Trail, the Riesling Trail, there's just a whole bunch of things that you can do in the Clare Valley, even just like some of the views and stuff, and things that are within, an hour of the Clare Valley. There's tons of stuff that you can do, but it's just not organised at the moment. And these are the same people, they might not be spending tons of money in the wineries, but they're the same people that are walking into the coffee shops, or they're walking in to get some organic produce at, the corner patch, or they're getting their hair cut, or they get, they're getting those other things that, our service hub town exists for the rest of the region. I think we can't ignore that. However, that said, I think if we are developing a customer experience and being really deliberate about who we're for and what customer experience we're developing, I think if we focus and develop the experience that's going to match that of the former archetype, the higher value, those three sort of areas, then the rest will take care of itself, right? So I'm acknowledging that we've got like tons of sort of like journeyman people coming through. They're on a journey. But if we get the customer experience right for the rest, for the people that we are targeting, that we are putting money into attracting, then the experience will look after itself, if that makes sense, when it comes to everybody else, the people traveling through. So let's jump into the customer journey. I'll draw it out and quickly show you. So those 6 areas, you've got dreaming, planning, booking, anticipation, experience, and sharing. And you can do this for your own business as well. And in each of them, you just write down what are the marketing channels that you can use to influence the person at that point in their journey. And then you just write them all down, pick out the ones that are sort of like, oh God, I hate this term, but like the low-hanging fruit. Don't make it hard on yourself. Like just pick a few things and get started there. And I think that's one of the problems with this process is that It'd be easy to make it really hard on ourselves, and we're going to get a document which absolutely loads of recommendations, and sure, they're going to be prioritized, but I think we can just do this for now and just start making some headway through some of these things. We'll put a circle around them and we'll start developing a bit of a plan inside each of them, and that's what I'm going to do next. And then the other tool that I would say that we can use is the customer experience map. So it's different. Don't get it confused with the customer journey. The customer journey is a marketing tool. What marketing channels do you need to be on, and what do you need to do to move people through? The customer experience map is literally designing, not leaving it up to fate, but literally designing the customer experience that we want to deliver. And actually two of the main things that sort of like fall into that are transport and accommodation. So if we were to draw out the customer experience map for the visitor experience in the Clare Valley, which ends up being the Clare Valley brand when they go home, we draw a line in the middle and we call that the baseline. Above that is a really high quality experience, and below that is sort of like a poached experience. And then in a linear fashion, from left to right, you note each of the main points of the customer journey. So this would be relevant for a coffee shop too. You would just have different points in the customer journey. Somebody's, it starts with parking, walking in, ordering, sitting down and enjoying their thing, and departing. That's the customer experience map. Where do you sit versus what the benchmark is in your industry? Just a point I want to make here while I'm working on the planning section of this customer experience map is just making a point about the Destination Management Organization website and what it has been for. So in the past, DMO websites have been for that sort of like late stage inspo, mid stage planning, and we've had booking.com, other OTAs for a long time. So we haven't been about actually booking for a long time. So it's just been that sort of like inspo planning. If destinations don't adapt, though, they're going to get killed by their traffic. Their web traffic is going to get absolutely killed by AI, because right now I can go to ChatGPT and say to ChatGPT, I'm a family with 2 kids under 5. I don't want to spend much money. These are the dates that I'm in somewhere. Give me a bunch of experiences that fit to this budget, and I'm going to get a pretty good result. So destinations can't match that, and the tools that you've used in the past can't match it either. So this is one of the reasons why I have some reservations about how things are structured at the moment and what the destination website does at the moment, because I think it falls short. I think it falls short today, and I think it's going to fall short, really short, in 2 to 3 years if we don't adapt. So the two things that I think we need to do to adapt, one is just start creating better local content, because AI can't do that. And if we start creating better local content, there's actually a reason for people to visit the website and get information on the website. It's stuff that AI can't do. And then the second thing is to start realizing that the opportunity for destination websites is actually going to be when people are in destination and they scan that QR code on the window, and then they can find out what to do on a Sunday. They can see specific operators. They can see hours. They can see stories, and all of that stuff. I think ChatGPT or like any AI is literally, it's at least 3 to 5 years away from being able to do that, because they can't tell the local stories like we can, and they can't keep up with availability of local product when you're on the ground like we can either. So I think historically, that destination website's been for planning, but that's going to change. There's an opportunity for us to adapt. We don't have to make it hard. We don't even need to be within the current DMO website. We can do something else that's campaign-based and solve those problems. So if we're looking at Clare Valley as a brand and the Clare Valley visitor experience, where do we sit in each of those points, and what does the customer need? What does the visitor need to have a fantastic experience at each point of their customer experience? And I think if we look at that, then we're going to see that transport's a massive problem. And this is something that came up a lot in the destination management workshop. Transport's a massive problem, but it's because people can't have a great visitor experience if they can't get to the places they want to go and have the experience they want. Some people want to have a bit of a drink with, as a couple. They want to both be able to have a glass of wine when they're out and not worry about driving home. That's a problem. That's a poached experience. What makes it a great experience? Well, if we could If we could chauffeur literally every couple that came through the destination, then they're going to have a freaking amazing experience. Way below that is an aspirational experience that we probably can get to that delivers like a 5 or 6 star experience, right? That's what we're going for. The customer experience map gives you an actionable plan for the things that need to happen to deliver a quality visitor experience that people are going to rave about. It's different to the customer journey, which is a marketing tool, which gives you some guidance about where you need to be, when, and how you're going to turn up, right? I'm going to go away and do that. I probably need to start collaborating with somebody on this to start talking about this and actually get somebody else's ideas other than my own. But also, hopefully this gives you some idea about if you're doing this in your business, how could you use both of those tools for yourself? And also, if you're following along here, I could be talking to myself into the ether, into the universe. But anyways, if you're following along here, hopefully it gives you some idea about how we can go through this process strategically, but also just simplify the heck out of it. So we're not reading a 20-page document or a 15-page marketing plan and getting completely overwhelmed and doing nothing. So anyway, thanks for getting this far if you did, and we'll see where we go from here.